Philippine Coast Guard will still recover anything that we would see while we are patrolling the area of Bao de Masin.
On April 11, 2026, Chinese ships dropped a 352-meter floating barrier across the entrance to Scarborough Shoal. No shot was fired. No soldier landed. Just a line of plastic and steel telling Filipino fishermen that the waters they have fished for generations now require Beijing's permission. This is what control of the South China Sea looks like in 2026. Not invasion. Permission denial.
This is China Coast Guard. Leave sea areas immediately. All coast, leave sea areas immediately.
And by 2030, if the trend lines hold, the question of who controls these waters will already be answered. Look at any single week in the South China Sea this year. A Japanese destroyer transits under Tokyo's new defense pact with Manila. A U.S. carrier strike group runs a freedom of navigation operation. A Chinese aircraft carrier, the Fujian, with its electromagnetic catapults, slips past the Bashi Channel. Vietnamese supply ships ferry naval infantry to brand new outposts on Barque Canada Reef. And Filipino fishermen on wooden boats get hit with water cannons inside their own exclusive economic zone. 5 navies, 1 fishing fleet, the same 1.4 million square miles of contested water, each operating on a different rulebook. This is the conundrum. Nobody can eject anybody, and every single actor is escalating the means by which they try. A MTI tracking from 2021 to 2026 tells a story with no plot twists. Every line goes up. China has dredged about 18.8 square kilometers of coral reef since 2022. Vietnam, 13.4. Beijing's October 2025 reclamation at Antelope Reef in the Paracels is on track to make it the largest occupied feature in the entire South China Sea, built 281 kilometers from China's Sanya Naval Hub, in the corridor that would matter most in any Taiwan contingency.
This is Philippine Coast Guard. We are Scarborough MRRV 4409. You are within Philippine exclusive economic.
China Coast Guard presence is now 365 days a year at every contested feature. The Maritime militia hit record numbers in 2025. The PLA Navy crossed a threshold last August when it joined a Coast Guard ramming operation against the Philippines at Scarborough Shoal. Open PLA involvement in routine gray zone coercion, not just escalation backstop.
Vessel BRT Teresa Magbanwa, MRRV 9701. We have medical personnel on board.
Then came the legal layer. In September 2025, Beijing declared the Huangyan Dao National Nature Reserve. 3,523 hectares of Scarborough turned into a Chinese conservation zone. By April 2026, that nature reserve had a 352-meter barrier across its entrance.
That does not mean the South China Sea is becoming any safer. Quite the opposite. As Southeast Asian claimants have realized that Beijing is unable to stop their activities in gray zone methods alone, they have brought themselves into more and more frequent interactions with the CCG and militia.
This is what experts at CSIS call lawfare married to gray zone coercion. China is not annexing the South China Sea. It is regulating it. February 2026. the United States and Israel launched an air war on Iran. Tehran shut down the Strait of Hormuz. Brent crude went above $100, peaked at $126. And here's why that matters for the South China Sea. 2 of 3 forward-deployed U.S. amphibious ready groups got pulled to the Arabian Sea. Roughly 29 to 43% of available U.S. THAAD missile defense systems followed. 48 THAAD interceptors were physically moved out of South Korea. U.S. reconnaissance flights over the South China Sea dropped from 102 in December to 72 by February, almost a 30% collapse in coverage. Beijing read the signal. Within weeks, China accelerated dredging at Antelope Reef. The Trump-Xi summit got delayed. Asian allies like Japan, Korea, Thailand, and the Philippines started cutting their own energy deals. With Iran, with Russia, even with China. This is the structural problem the Pentagon calls the two-theater strain. A United States stretched across multiple wars cannot deter in all of them at once. China, Russia, Iran, North Korea does not need to be a formal alliance. It only has to make the planning problem harder. And in 2026, it is.
Folks that deliver. They work their tail off all year long across the services to make sure we've got...
January 2026. The Pentagon released its new National Defense Strategy. It commits explicitly to erecting a denial defense along the first island chain. The arc from Japan through Taiwan, the Philippines, to Borneo. This is good news for Manila and Tokyo. But the same document does not mention Taiwan. Not once. It drops the word revisionist for China. It tells South Korea to handle North Korea on its own. And it sequences the Western Hemisphere, Venezuela, Greenland, counter-narcotics, the so-called Trump corollary, ahead of the Indo-Pacific. Allies are reading 2 messages at once. Yes, Washington still cares about the first island chain. No, you cannot count on Washington for Taiwan. The deterrence framework is intact in name and ambiguous in commitment. Beijing reads ambiguity as opportunity. So while Manila signs a binding mutual defense agreement with Tokyo, while Australia transfers AUKUS submarines, while France runs joint patrols with the U.S. 7th Fleet, China keeps tightening the screws at Scarborough. Each side is building a different lattice. Whose lattice holds by 2030 is the entire question. Why Scarborough? Geography. The shoal sits 120 nautical miles from Luzon, well inside the Philippine EEZ, and 350 nautical miles from Hainan. It is the only major contested feature where the 2016 Permanent Court of Arbitration upheld Filipino fishermen's traditional fishing rights. If Manila loses operational access here, the precedent is unrecoverable. Every other Philippine claim weakens. Every other ASEAN state takes notes.
What is happening, and that this is the situation the Philippines, never mind anyone else. This is the situation the Philippines finds itself in. Okay?
And Manila is fighting back. President Marcos has rolled out the comprehensive archipelagic defense concept. The U.S. Typhoon mid-range missile system is now on Luzon, a serious upgrade from HIMARS. Over 500 joint U.S.-Philippine military exercises are scheduled for 2026. Japan is transferring naval destroyers to Manila. But notice what Beijing is doing. Not invading, just building. A nature reserve, a floating barrier, a patrol presence justified by environmental law. Maritime security officers, not soldiers. Each move stays just below the threshold that triggers the U.S. Mutual Defense Treaty under Article 1 fee. This is Beijing's masterstroke. Coercion calibrated to the alliance tripwire. And it is working. Here is what most analysts get wrong about 2027. 2027 is not an invasion deadline. It is the centennial of the People's Liberation Army. It is the year Xi Jinping expects to secure his 4th term at the 21st Party Congress. It is the date by which Xi has reportedly directed the PLA to be capable of resolving the Taiwan question by force if ordered. Capability is not decision, but for the South China Sea, the difference does not matter, because the South China Sea is the enabler of any Taiwan move. Control of these waters lets the PLA isolate Taiwan from the South. Block U.S. and Philippine reinforcement through the Bashi Channel. Project missile and ISR coverage from the Big Three islands, Fiery Cross, Subi, and Mischief Reef. The buildup at Antelope Reef sits exactly in this corridor. Whether or not China moves on Taiwan in 2027 or 2028 or 2030, the South China Sea gets more contested, not less. Beijing is fortifying its southern flank for a conflict it may never fight, because the fortifications themselves change what it can demand. Here is the honest forecast. 3 scenarios, each built backward from a 2030 endpoint to today's signals. By 2030, China exercises de facto control over most of the South China Sea through legal and administrative consolidation. Filipino fishermen no longer access Scarborough. Vietnam holds its Spratly outposts, but its commercial fleet is squeezed. Malaysia and Indonesia sign Beijing favorable joint development frameworks. The ASEAN Code of Conduct, if it exists, codifies Chinese Coast Guard primacy. The U.S. still runs FONOP and operates Typhoon batteries from Luzon, but its presence is symbolic outside a Taiwan crisis. My probability estimate, 55%. This is the most likely path. By 2030, the Allied lattice holds. US, Japan, Philippines, Australia, with French and UK rotational deployments, institutionalize enough multilateral presence that Chinese gray zone tactics start producing diminishing returns. Manila keeps Scarborough access through persistence and Japanese legal cover. Vietnam's buildup is complete and defensively credible. China retains the paracels and the Big Three, but cannot expand further. Probability, 30%. Possible, not probable. Sometime between 2028 and 2029, a miscalculation at Scarborough or 2nd Thomas Shoal produces casualties Manila cannot absorb diplomatically. The U.S. response is partial, show of force, sanctions, accelerated arms transfers, but the precedent shifts everything. China either backs off or escalates. Either way, the South China Sea is no longer a gray zone. It is a militarized boundary. Probability, 15%. Lower than scenario 1, but the consequences are the highest. By 2030, China controls the South China Sea in every functional sense short of formal recognition. Not by invasion, by substitution. Chinese law replacing international law inside Chinese claimed waters, backed by the largest navy in Asia, the densest maritime militia in the world, and a coast guard with daily presence at every contested feature. The trend lines from 2021 to 2026 are monotonic. More CCG. More militia, more reclamation, more lawfare, fewer U.S. recon flights, more allied hedging. Nothing in the structural environment, demographics, shipbuilding, U.S. political volatility flips these lines by 2030. Manila will keep fighting at Scarborough. Hanoi will keep building. Tokyo and Canberra will keep showing the flag. Washington will keep running FONOP. None of it stops the consolidation. Some of it slows the pace. The Scarborough Barrier of April 2026 is the symbol. A 352-meter line of physical consent denial. By 2030, that line will be a permanent installation. So here is the question for the next 4 years. Once Scarborough falls, quietly, administratively, without a single shot, what is next? Reed Bank, with its 5 billion barrels of oil? Vanguard Bank, where Vietnamese rigs feed 10% of the country's energy needs? Or the Bashi Channel itself, the southern gate to Taiwan? Tell me in the comments which feature you think becomes the next test case. And if you want to follow how this plays out, feature by feature, incident by incident, subscribe to Indo-Pacific Report. Because the water is contested, the clock is running, and most analysts will not give you a straight answer on 2030. This channel will.